Hey there. This is the first episode of what is hopefully a series called Bad Fnaf Theories. The theory I'm looking at today is Mike Victim. This is a really old theory. I know it has its fans, but it's not going to stop me from talking about how this theory is not a good theory. So if you're a Mike Victim fan, I recommend you click off the video. But anyone still watching, let's start talking about how this theory doesn't make any sense. For the sake of fairness, I'll talk about points I see for Mike Victim. Starting with, we don't get direct confirmation from Fnaf 4 that BV isn't Mike from Fnaf 1. The stuff that tells us BV isn't Mike from Fnaf 1 is told to us cryptically and not directly told to us. In this context, Mike Victim can make a little more sense if you interpret Fnaf 4's ending differently, or if you have no knowledge of the other games, which are two subjects I'll get into later in the video. And now for the points against Mike Victim. Oh boy, where do I start? How about the ending of FNAF 4? Remember when I said if you interpret FNAF 4's ending differently? Yeah, sometimes interpretations can be wrong. Let me explain. In FNAF 4's ending, we clearly hear a flatlining sound. This is usually used as a shorthand for a character dying. I know this isn't always the case, but in cases where it isn't, it's where a character is in the middle of the story or near the end, not at the very end like FNAF 4's. I imagine if Scott wanted to show that BV wasn't actually dead, he would have not used a flatlining sound, or had the heart monitor sound play again, after a bit like a post-credit scene, or as a special ending you can unlock after you beat the game in a certain way. Needless to say, the ending of FNAF 4 doesn't make sense with Mike Victim, but there's other reasons why the theory is not good. Which brings me to my second point, Mike's motivation. I know BV gets somewhere in the realms of crumbs and fucking nothing in terms of characterization, like a lot of other FNAF characters, but what little we get from his personality from the week before and FNAF 4 itself, he clearly doesn't seem like a type that would go into places with killer animatronics, especially if he nearly died from one. I know we need to have a suspension of disbelief when talking about a game series about people spending 5 nights at a place where they can get killed, but we do still need a good explanation for why Mike is putting himself through these life and death situations. Now on to the other part of the video where I talk about how the later games and sources disprove Mike Victim. I think a good thing to start with is with the Staffbot family from FNAF Security Breach. They do seem to be at least a reference to the Afton family. With a mom, dad, daughter, and two sons, one of them is missing their head, a reference to the bite of 83. And that Staffbot's head is completely gone. I imagine if Mike Victim was the case, the Staffbot wouldn't have its head completely missing. And instead, it would be very damaged, I imagine. But also the Staffbot, across from the headless one, represents Mike, because he's wearing clothes similar to the one Mike drew himself wearing in the survival logbook. There's also the Flower family from FNAF Secret of the Mimic, who seem to also represent the Afton family, where the red flower kid is BV and the white flower kid is Mike. And we see the red flower kid on a hospital bed. I know this flower family point might be a little weak, but I just wanted to use it as another example of an Afton family representation, not hinting towards Mike Victim. But we also have the two Mikes from the movies, and neither of them seem to even hint to have some type of head injury or being bitten by an animatronic. I know the movies are in a different continuity, but it does still feel like we have a lot of connections to the main continuity, and we can still use the movies for clues, or the main canon, and none of them point to Mike Victim. And there's the week before investigative novel, where in one of the endings, phone guy, who is named Ralph, calls the number 1983. He hears crying, then he gets his head chopped on, killing him. There's more in the page. I'll put it up on screen, but that was a basic summary of it. It's very likely that BV was the one who killed him. And there's also FNAF Pizzeria Simulator and Sister Location, where if Mike was the bite victim, there would have been more hints to it, especially since one of them is the ending to the original story. Like, say what you will about Scott as a writer, but I really don't think he would miss the fact that the protagonist of the game got his head bitten on, that the protagonist of the game was the Bite of 83 victim. There would have been an acknowledgement from it from Scraptrap, or someone like Baby. Where I'm getting at is like if Mike was the bite victim, there would have been more hints to it in the entire franchise, especially in the game that was the ending to the original series. And then we have the I will put you back together line. This line, for me anyway, is the biggest evidence against Mike victim. There's nothing in the entire series that involves putting Mike back together. This line only makes sense with BB, especially if you believe in something like Shatter Victim. If BB was Mike, this line would be pointless because he isn't dead. He didn't die. The line implies bringing someone back together, as in like bringing someone back from the dead, or in the case of Shatter Victim, or depending on how you see Fnaf World, literally putting his soul back together. So yeah, Mike Victim is not a good theory with all this stuff going against it. Anyway, that was bad Fnaf theories. I hope you liked the video. I'm a bit rusty on my Fnaf lore, so if I got something wrong or made mistakes, please tell me. Also, for anyone who wanted a more in-depth video, sorry, this is about figures I think are bad, so I didn't feel too much inclined to the nitty-gritty. I just want to give my own unique takes on why I think these bad theories are bad. But if you liked the video, please comment on any other bad FNAF theories you'd like me to talk about. And also, sorry for the bad audio quality. This is my first time using Audacity, and I'm using a headset to record. Thanks for watching, and bye.